And we're joined by Renee Merrifield, the MLA for Kelowna Mission. So a little update. Your party's starting to settle into the role of opposition, and given the numbers, like your party's at about 24% right now, it looks like you're kind of stuck there. How do you build from a number like that to an electable choice?
Well, I think that we draw attention to the issues and the things that matter to British Columbians. I think that we remain positive and visionary and focused. We have an exciting year ahead of us with a new leadership race, and even that will instill a level of confidence that we don't have right now, that we are looking forward to gaining.
Right. I think that a lot of people saw Andrew Wilkinson as highly competent. You know, he really knew his stuff, yet somehow he just didn't resonate. There is this charisma factor that you need to find in a leader.
Absolutely, there is that. I think they call it an X factor, which is that relatability, the factor where people can see themselves in your story and see that you're listening to them and that you're paying attention to what matters to them. But I would say that the whole BC Liberal caucus really had a disconnect with the pandemic, where it was an 8-month time frame where we weren't able to see constituents, we weren't able to connect in a meaningful way. So I do think that the snap election had something to do with where we ended up in the polls.
Your role as health critic has been quite different. Unlike your predecessor, you have been unafraid to be critical. Was that your personal choice on how to play your cards, or was that a caucus decision that you would no longer just sit back and let the policies come from the government?
It's a both and. So our interim leader, MLA Shirley Bond, definitely chose me knowing who I was, what I was about, and we had that conversation as to what I saw and what I could envision for the role, and to really get the best outcomes for British Columbians, which is to have that healthy oppositional role. And then it was taking it to caucus and making sure that they had buy-in, that they were okay with the direction and where we were heading, and that we were going to go together as a team. And I think that whether it was in health or whether it was in the economy or whether it was in transportation, all of us took a different stance and a much more inquisitive, curious, and a little bit more aggressive in terms of the questions that we asked on behalf of all British Columbians.
Right, and one thing that came up in our conversation prior to the interview here is that perhaps, with so much focus on COVID, that this government has been too willing to allow other important procedures like cancer questions and stuff to be properly dealt with while we just cleared the decks for COVID.
Absolutely, and we're seeing some of that percolate to the top, whether that's our emergency rooms that are overloaded, whether that's our frontline workers or our nursing staff that are simply at the end of their rope, whether that's our paramedics that are understaffed and in short supply, or whether that's our cancer care. We need planning, and we need planning forward, and we did not see that from this NDP government. We did not see an economic plan, nor did we see a health plan on how we were going to move forward together as British Columbia.
We've seen a few people enter the race for leadership. Is there one of these people that you see has the best potential? Are you thinking of throwing your hat in the ring?
Oh, it's exciting times ahead. It's exciting times ahead. I won't commit as of yet, but there's definitely some pressure to make sure that we have the best ideas, that we have a full field, and that we are having those conversations as to what British Columbians want and how we're going to make a path forward as the BC Liberal Caucus.
When you come out of that, do you think that you'll likely get a bump? I'm talking about the Liberals across the province.
Absolutely. When you don't have a leader, when you don't have that vision, when you don't have, and don't get me wrong, MLA Bond has been phenomenal in how she has steadied the ship, made sure that we were asking great questions and leading forward, and having enough space to really make each of the critic roles our own. We need a leader who's visionary and who will go beyond what it is and has that charisma and is willing to go across the province in a very safe and COVID-friendly way, but make sure that people are listened to and that their concerns are brought forward. I think there's a huge unactivated or inactivated amount of people within British Columbia who have really been just COVIDed out, and I think we'll come back just like we're seeing our summer.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time today.
No, thank you so much for having me.